me, and you've had the opportunity to sit, and watch me and see my soul. I think you really truly know that I'll absolutely always tell you the truth, and that I absolutely am in this for nothing for me, but everything for you. Now, with all of that, I would just say simply this. The things that we have done along the way are very important. Don't twist my words. When it really boils right down to it, the passage of things, as far as our corporate rules and laws and everything, they have been beneficial, but they didn't get us across the finish line. The passing of a right-to-work law in West Virginia, I support 1,000%, but it didn't get us across the finish line. The passing or getting rid of prevailing wage and all the other little things that we've done along the way, they still didn't get us across the finish line. That's not to say that I'm not 100% supportive, but it didn't get us across the finish line. And really and truly, if you look at when I came into the door, you see, I am brutally honest all the time. I'd like to sit back and say, we passed the roads to prosperity, did we not? By 73% of the vote. You had a lot of naysayers that said we'd never get it done. But the public stood up and really their voice was heard. But really and truly, as great as it's been, and as great as it's been in repairing our roads and building new roads and bringing employment to this state and surpluses to this state, it still didn't get us across the finish line. We stuck a stake in the sand and said, we're going to do this for education, and we're going to let the world know. We're going to let the world know just how great West Virginia is in lots of different ways. We're going to make education our centerpiece, but it didn't get us across the finish line. Now, at the end of the day, all of those building blocks have been very important, and me 100% supportive. And absolutely congratulating all those that made all the building blocks happen along the way. But now we're sitting right at the window. And we're sitting at the window now where the people would really come. The spotlight of the world is on West Virginia right now. Absolutely, we know from the standpoint of how we've handled COVID and how we've handled the economics of COVID, really and truly, we have knocked it out of the park. Now the spotlight is really on us. Because when it all really boils down to it, we still need to get across the steepest part of the mountain. The steepest part of the mountain is always near the top. And if we don't move and move now, we'll slide back. We'll slide back. The only state in the entire United States that has lost population. The only state. Can you imagine that? We don't want to be called that, do we? We have so many opportunities here, it's unbelievable. 4 of the most incredible seasons and where we're located, to all the population, our great natural resources, our great people, and on and on and on. And they still didn't come. Now, we have all the building blocks, the right to work, no prevailing wage, all the building blocks of low property taxes, absolutely welcoming to our veterans, really making a statement to what we're going to do as far as education, building all kinds and fixing all kinds of new roads and old roads, absolutely all the great handling of COVID and all the economics. We have them all. We got to do something else, West Virginia. It would be so easy, so easy for me to just sit back and say, yay, Jim, you've done a whale of a job and everything, and we'll just ride off into the sunset. You didn't elect me to do that. And I'm not going to do that. It's almost like, I don't begrudge people for retiring in any way. In fact, I congratulate them on it. I want you to understand that. But in my life, how I see it is this way. I believe the good Lord made me Jim Justice for a reason. I'm here for a reason. And absolutely, as long as he gives me breath, I'm going to keep on digging as hard as I can every day, every single day. I'm not going to gather in my chips and just go have fun. I could surely do that, but I'm not going to do that because, you see, I think the good Lord has made me Jim Justice for that reason. He blessed me beyond belief, and absolutely I'm not going to just gather in my chips and go away. I'm not going to do that because in my world, only my world, in my world, I think at the end of the day, I'd be letting the good Lord down because of what he's done for me. Now, you may think that's bunk. I don't care. I know it's true. I know it's true. And so with all that, I keep on digging. Now, let me just say this, and then I'll go right directly to your questions. West Virginia, I am trying with all in me, with the great revenue people and all the people that I have around me, to make this to where every single West Virginian is net positive. Meaning that if we do this, you'll put more money in your pocket than you will expend on other taxes or other things that we have to have other mechanisms to be able to get us there. But you, West Virginians, all of you, every last one of you is what I'm trying to work on, a method to be able to put money in your pocket, net positive money. And then you know what else I'm trying to do? I'm trying to bring you opportunity beyond belief. I'm trying to raise your property values, not your property taxes. I am trying to absolutely give you entertainment and reason for our young people staying in West Virginia rather than migrating out all over the place. I'm trying to give you goodness in West Virginia and job opportunity and the ability to move up the scale on your wages. How do you think we're going to do this, West Virginia, if we have no growth? How do you think that's going to happen? Now, West Virginia, we've proven how to have no growth. But West Virginia, you've got to listen to me on this. If I can put money, net money in your pocket, and that's what we're working on trying to be able to do for everyone. If I can put net money in your pocket, and on top of that, I can bring you job growth, people moving into this state, all the different things that come with it from the standpoint of your property going up in value and on, and we turn this down, bad mistake. At the end of the day, really and truly, all I can do is bring the horse to the water. You, the public, have got to shove this over the top. Absolutely, with all in me, I'm trying with our revenue people, and I'm trying to get everything as fine-tuned as I can possibly get it before I send this up. It's going to have to take a little bit of participation from all of us, you know. But one of the things, and you'll hear me say this later on if a question comes up along those lines, but just think about this. Just think about having our professionals pay taxes well. Now think about it. What if you were a lawyer or you were an accountant, you know, and you were charging people, you know, for their services? It may very well be that you pass along that tax and that charge to the consumers, for the people that are using your services. It may very well be that and everything. And from the standpoint, if we use a lawyer or we use an accountant or whatever it may be, you know, thankfully, you know, the people that are struggling the most in the lower income brackets and everything are using the lawyers and the accountants less than the people that are super wealthy and everything, and they're using the lawyers and the accountants more, and sure, they can afford to pay that if it is passed along. If a law firm decides, well, we're not going to pass that along because really we're just going to eat that, and it's going to become an expense, a little bit of an expense to them, but they still believe that having more business is better. Now, either way, you tell me, please, if you're an accountant or you're a lawyer, and today you know that if we do this and we make this move, you may very well be able to pass along your charge, your tax. But even if you can't, is it not worthy to have so much more business? You know, how are you going to grow your business? How are we going to grow more law firms or more accounting firms or more advertisers? How are we going to do that if we don't have more people here, more people to use your services? I don't get it. I don't get it. And you know, just to be opposed, just for the sake of being opposed, that's not smart. That's not smart at all. I'm done. I'll answer your questions. Please feel free to ask me anything.
All right, thank you, Governor. The first question today comes from Joe in Scott Depot. He says, I saw in the news release that the governor said to tax things that hurt us, like tobacco and soda. So my question would be, why not tax liquor and beer? I believe this would be a huge tax revenue that could be missed.
Joe, you're exactly right. And we have taken your words and everything, and we have taken them to heart, and we have expanded the format of what we're doing. In that it is going to enable us to soften up a little bit, you know, on how much pulling of the rope the tobacco or soda tax people would have to do, and we've expanded that to beer, wine, and liquor as well. You're right.
All right, next question comes from Rod in Walton. Knowing what we already know, right to work and repealing the prevailing wage didn't do it. What makes you think repealing the state income tax will draw people here? Plus, this only puts more of a burden on low-income earners having to pay higher sales tax on necessities. If you want help, stop expanding state government, 2 new cabinet heads, plus an intermediate court that's not needy for starters. Enough said.
Okay, it's kind of a long question and everything, but let me just say just this. I know without a doubt, if you'll look at what is going on in all the other states where they have eliminated their personal income tax, with the exception maybe that you could make up of a Kansas that absolutely handled their own state government in a terrible way, you know, and why in the world you would back up from that and hang your hat on Kansas, I don't have any idea, because just think about this and only this. Why in the world would anyone want to go to Kansas? I mean, Kansas is in the middle of the Great Plains, and really and truly, from the standpoint of their climate, it's not all that great. They surely don't have an ocean. They don't have 4 incredible seasons like that we have here. They are not located within a rock's throw of 2/3 of the population of the country. I don't know why we hang our head on Kansas. Now, from the standpoint of our low-income people being able to carry the burden and this laying right in the lap of them, that's not going to happen on my watch. No way. You know, what we're going to do, we're trying with all in us to find a way that we can help our low-income people. And really and truly, what we're going to be proposing is a tax rebate check to our lowest income to be able to help them be able to absorb a little bit higher consumer sales tax and on and on. But in regard to growing government, think about what I've said to you on day one. I mean, guys and girls, just listen to me. You know, when I walked in the door, you could say what you want, but I'm a business guy, and this state was dead level bankrupt. And look where we are today. And if what I've done hadn't worked, you're not thinking right. It's just worked. I have also said over and over and over, we need to significantly expand tourism. In the state of West Virginia, we need to diversify our economy to where it is not solely held on or lies on coal and gas and oil. That we need to diversify our economy to high-tech tourism, manufacturing, lots of things, while at the same time not forgetting the value and the beauty of a coal mine job. They're unbelievable. And we still want to kind of try in every way to expand that. But in the meantime, we need to diversify our economy. And in doing that, what did we do? We amped up tourism, and it took off like a rocket ship. But still, it has only gone so far, and it can go so much further, especially now with all the stuff that's going on from the COVID standpoint to the recognizing of nature and the outdoors and all that component that goes with it. But in addition to that, I have said from day one, what we have got to do in West Virginia is create an instant job. We did that with Roads to Prosperity. Now, right behind all of that, we need to put big stakes in the sand with economic development and tourism. And that's what I'm doing, and I'm doing it in a methodology that's not going to grow government. All it's going to do is just make us better and give us more and more opportunities in West Virginia. So for you that think that we're going to lay this on the burden of the low income, wrong. And for those that think we're going to grow government by what we're doing with secretaries in economic development and tourism, and that's growing government, wrong. So all I can say is we're putting our emphasis where we're winning, and where we're winning is where we want to make bigger and better.
All right, the next question comes from Dave in Morgantown. He says, when might we see a bill on the personal income tax repeal? Also, given the amount of potential loss in revenue from the elimination of the personal income tax, would you consider other tax repeals, namely any of the types of personal property taxes, in hopes to spur on business and population in the state and not lose as much revenue?
Okay, it's Dave, is that correct? Dave, first of all, you should see the bill. Surely you'll see the bill this week. We're still just trying to make it as perfect as we can possibly make it, and make it absolutely net positive to every West Virginian. From the standpoint of doing other things beyond this is such a big lift that I would not support trying to do anything else beyond this. And the other thing, as far as your property taxes, Dave, in the state of West Virginia, compared to our neighbors and all throughout this country, we have incredibly low property taxes. And I'm not an advocate of just jacking our property taxes up in a great big way, but as far as lowering our property taxes even more, that may be a big challenge for right now. This challenge right here to eliminate our state income tax would drive a lot of folks to West Virginia. It will significantly increase your property values, and as the more people come, the more people are going to pay for all kinds of different services and all kinds of different stuff, and that absolutely will give us the opportunity going forward to maybe even address or lower property taxes or lower any type of taxes as we go forward.
All right, next question from Dylan in Ripley. Do you support legalizing marijuana fully in West Virginia to bring in more money to our state so we can tax it?
Okay, I don't, and but I am weakening on that position, and the reason for that is just this: is whether I am supportive or not supportive. I think at the end of the day, the way I feel is we have a drug situation in West Virginia that we are working on and making progress on, and layering in just another potential component could cause us some more problems. On the other hand, the medical community, and there's people out there that with a lot more knowledge than I have, tell me that really and truly the legalizing of marijuana in certain areas or certain states that have that from a recreational standpoint have lowered their drug type problems. Well, just tell it like it is. I'm not educated enough to make a really good assessment as of yet, but I can tell you just this. I do believe that is coming, and the wave is coming across all of our states. And as that wave comes, if our House Republicans and Democrats and Senate Republicans and Democrats would get behind that effort, from a standpoint of legalization of recreational marijuana, and they would be supportive of that, I would too. And what I would say is just this: if we could bucket the proceeds and use them in ways just like this personal income tax reduction, if there was a way to bucket the proceeds to be able to use them in a really beneficial way for all our people.
All right, the next question comes from Sean in Harpers Ferry. He says, I just moved to West Virginia from Maryland to decrease my tax burden. I currently still work in Maryland. However, since there is a reciprocal tax agreement between the two states, I currently only pay income taxes in West Virginia. I'm all about eliminating income tax, but if the West Virginia income tax is eliminated, will the reciprocal tax agreement between West Virginia and Maryland dissolve as well, forcing me to once again pay burdensome Maryland income taxes?
I love how you ended with burdensome Maryland income taxes, and what I want to do is take the burden off all those that are in Maryland and have them vacate Maryland. But I'm going to let Secretary Hardy, answer the question, because he can answer this one better than I can.
Well, and Governor, I agree with you. Based on our research, the taxes in West Virginia are certainly a lot lower than the taxes in Maryland. And the answer would be, under our reciprocal agreement with Maryland, that you would still be subject to the laws in West Virginia. So you would have the benefit of the repeal of the West Virginia income tax, even though you're working in Maryland, because the opposite applies as well. If you are working in West Virginia but you're a Maryland resident, it would be the other way around. So this is to your benefit, and you would benefit from the elimination of the state income tax.
And let me add one other thing to that. If you're living in West Virginia and you're working in Maryland, that means there's not opportunities in West Virginia, does it not? And with doing this, you know what we're going to have? We're going to have you living in West Virginia and working in West Virginia. And in addition to that, those folks that are in Maryland, and why on God's earth they would be living in Maryland and working in West Virginia, I'll never know. So what we're going to do, we're going to get them here too.
The next question comes from Mike in Marietta, Ohio. I'm president of the Mid-Ohio Valley chapter of Habitat for Humanity, encompassing Wood County, West Virginia, and Washington County, Ohio. With the federal tax law changes 2 years ago, the incentive to donate to nonprofits was reduced greatly. This occurred with the increase in the standard deduction. Your proposal to do away with taxes would seem to have an equal effect on people contributing to nonprofits like Habitat. What plan do you have to see that there is an incentive to support nonprofits in your state? It would seem especially vital in West Virginia, which depends greatly on generosity of nonprofits to meet many of the basic needs of its citizens.
Well, I'm going to defer again to Secretary Hardy on this, but I would just say this is out of my wheelhouse and everything. But I am a true believer that our nonprofits and the great work they do, we have got to find a methodology to be able to protect that, because that is vital to us as we go forward. So many different agencies and everything, they absolutely need that help, and there has to be a way and a mechanism to be able to accomplish both. But now I'll pass to Secretary Hardy.
Yeah, and this is a pretty multi-layer question, and we did some research on this because this was brought up, I think, at the previous town hall as well. 2 or 3 things. Number one, of course, the federal tax law would still allow for the deduction of the contribution, but that's not really what the question is. The corporate net income tax, of course, will stay in place under this plan. So to the extent corporations still want to make contributions to nonprofits, they would still get the benefit of that deduction. Now, to the bigger issue, whether this would hurt with individuals getting a deduction on their state income taxes, that's something we need to take a hard look at. I'll give you an example. There's a program in West Virginia called the Neighborhood Investment Program, and the acronym, of course, is NIP. That program's been around since 1996. It's a very, very successful program. It helps about 200 nonprofits in West Virginia every year, and it's to the tune of about $3 million in tax credits. We have already started looking at, if the state income tax is eventually eliminated, how can we all step behind that program and make up for that lost the revenue to those nonprofits. So that's one of many, many things that we need to be looking at, and we will look at. The NIP program, of course, we have the data on it. It's 200 nonprofits. We know the cost. It's $3 million. And I would advocate to the governor, and I'm sure the governor would be inclined with the legislature as well, that we create some sort of block grant program through our development office to try to fill that hole. As far as all the other nonprofit contributions that are being taken on state income taxes, we need to run that, and we need to take a hard look at that and provide the governor with a number that we can work with to see how we can make up for that loss of that deduction. And there are ways to do that, and I know the governor enough to know that he would want to do that, and we will work on that research and get that done.
Come back to me just one second, Jordan. Just to make double sure, that everyone heard, Secretary Hardy, from the standpoint of, the deduction on the federal tax, that's still there, even if we had no state income tax. From the standpoint of the deduction on corporate tax, we will still have a corporate net tax, and you will still have the opportunity to give and deduct there. From a standpoint of a methodology, to be able to keep us whole and keep us from the standpoint of avoiding harm to all these great, people that are doing fabulous work, in all of these charitable organizations and everything. From that standpoint, whether it be a block grant or whatever it may be, I mean, at the end of the day, you have got to know my soul. You've got to. And really, when it really boils right down to it, do you really think that Jim Justice is going to do something that is going to drive our nonprofits into real trouble? There's no chance. There's no chance. And the other thing that you got to remember too is just this. From day one on this, the first thing we would do is we would cut half of the state income tax. So there's all kinds of still room for deductions if we only cut the first half. And it will take a period, what I would hope would be a short period, 2 to 3, maybe 4 years, but it'll take that amount of time for us to get into a situation to where we would have no income tax. And so from the standpoint of our, nonprofits, I would say a bunch of things. Breathe easy. This is not going to undermine you. Absolutely, you've got to be able to know how I feel about this. And the other thing is, there's ways to work out the methodology to where it is protective of you. And we'll get there. We'll get there. It's a complicated issue, but we'll get there.
All right, the next question comes from Derek in Carneysville. He says, Governor Justice, what is the income bracket for the wealth tax you referenced in your initial presser for West Virginia's proposed income tax repeal? Will the wealth tax be more or less than taxes currently paid by those in higher tax brackets?
Okay, I've said this before at last go round. It was my screw up in the state of the state. I should have called it something other than a wealth tax, because it sounds like, those that are making above 100,000 are going to have to pay 2% more, or whatever it may be like that, and that's totally inaccurate. This is a luxury tax. This is a tax that really probably won't bring us in a tremendous amount of dollars, but this is a tax. Did we lose everybody? Are you still with me? Okay. Okay. This is a tax that is a tax on a one item. It's a tax that if you buy something that costs in excess of $5,000, you pay a little more. And then if you buy something that's in excess of $500,000, you pay, let's say on $5,000 you pay 3% more. Now it does not count like you buy a whole, kitchen stuff. That doesn't count if it's $5,000. But if you buy a dishwasher, one dishwasher that costs $7,000, then you're above the $5,000 on one item. Now, on that, in my proposal, we're going to pay an additional 3% tax. As that amount goes significantly higher, we pay less. Like at $300,000 or $30,000, you pay 2%, and at $500,000, you pay 1%. So it goes down as the price tag goes up. Basically it has nothing to do with the tax bracket or a wealth tax in any way, or a redistribution of income, or anything like that. It's not that at all. All it is a luxury tax, and on people that can afford to buy super expensive things. It does not have anything to do with automobiles. It does not have anything to do with houses.
All right, the next question comes from Alvin in Martinsburg. So with the income tax being removed, what does that mean for property tax, gas tax, and any other taxes we have to pay? As of right now in our country, our gas prices have soared due to the new presidency. It has increased 40 cents in 4 weeks. I'm tired of paying almost $3 a gallon for fuel just to drive to and from work. I feel this isn't a good idea for the people that have to work out of state since there aren't many jobs here in our area.
And his name was?
It was Alvin.
Alvin, every point you make is exactly the points that I'm trying to make. First of all, Alvin, just think about this. You're saying you're having to drive out of state because there's not jobs in West Virginia. I'm trying to bring them here. That's all there is to it. From a standpoint, Alvin, of you saying, you're concerned about the new presidency and energy costs going up, well, I'm concerned too. That's all there is to it. I really believe that rationale will be prevalent, and at the end of the day, I think that it seems like it was almost a scalp that that this progressive movement wanted from the standpoint of getting rid of the Keystone Pipeline. And I hope and pray that we won't expand that beyond what is just plain good sense. But at the end of the day, Alvin, I'm wanting you to not have to drive out of state. I'm wanting you to work within West Virginia. And this is a way that I think I can really pull that off. And I'm wanting to do it to where your tax burden will go down. In other words, Alvin, I'm trying to make this, in fact, I am going to stand by my guns. I'm going to make this to where it is tax positive to you on day one. And as you go forward, it'll get phenomenally positive for you. But that's what I'm trying to do.
The next question comes from James in Milton. How will this help the elderly and low-income people of this beautiful state who pay little to zero state taxes? Eliminating state tax and darn near doubling sales tax will definitely hurt.
Well, we're not going to double the sales tax for one thing. And the other thing is, from the standpoint of the low income or our elderly and everything, we're trying to put together and structure a rebate to where that will insulate them from increases on things like, soda tax or increase, them on consumer sales tax, and where that they can come out net positive. We have the very, very best of the revenue tax people and everything that are working out these tables all across to where they absolutely can prove to us that those people are going to be net positive.
The next question comes from Robert in Fairmont. I'm all in favor of eliminating the personal income tax in West Virginia. I'm wondering if any new taxes to replace it, such as the luxury tax, which would be key to start out with items costing $5,000, will be indexed to inflation.
Maybe Dave, you try to answer that. Index to inflation kind of threw me a little bit of a curveball there and everything, but anyway.
I think ultimately that would be up to the legislature or the governor, in the governor's bill, Governor, whether you would want to say, for example, if the threshold to pay the luxury tax is $5,000, whether you want to say it adjusts for inflation over time. In other words, if the cost of living went up 2%, you would add 2% to the $5,000. It can either be in the code that way, or it could just be left at a flat $5,000, and that would be up, of course, to your bill and then ultimately the legislature and how they pass the bill.
This was James, is that right? James, I want you to hear me just a second on this and just think with me. We're not going to be able to cover every single wrinkle. There's no way. Now, I've done lots of stuff. I've employed thousands of people and run all kinds of businesses and everything. And I'm going to tell you from my standpoint, what you have to do is you have to Make the very best plan you can possibly make, vet it as best you possibly can vet it, and then go on and get in the pool. And then once you're in the pool, we know we're going to have to continually tweak things going forward and everything. And James, that's the methodology to success right there. You know, there's so many people that can sit on the porch and they can figure out how something can't be done. Well, I'm not about that. I am all about figuring out how things can be done, not can't be done.
Next question comes from Justin in Morgantown. Governor, can you address the concern I have about the budget for infrastructure? Many of the bridges and roadways in the state are aging and in need of repair. Will the loss of this revenue have a negative impact on our ability to maintain this crucial infrastructure? I do think that no income tax will attract businesses, but infrastructure issues may end up turning businesses away.
Well, and this was
Justin.
Justin, I'm sorry. I ought to jot those down as I'm going. But Justin, first of all, as far as will this detract and take away from the effort that we've got going right now in the Roads to Prosperity program, or spending back dollars into the repair and maintenance of our roads, or all the equipment that we bought in the effort to try to maintain our ditches and keep our roads in great shape? Absolutely not. But Justin, you've got to remember just this. These roads didn't get in this shape on my watch. They're getting better on my watch. But they got this way by decades of neglect. Now, we have built in ways that we're going to get better and better, and we're going to get the best. That's all there is to it. You know, it will not detract from that in any way. And the last part of his question was, one more time.
It was, I do think the no income tax will attract businesses, but infrastructure issues may end up turning businesses away.
They can, Justin. They can. That's all there is to it. There's no question that it will attract people to come to West Virginia, but we got to have our roads. I mean, the bottom line of the whole thing is people, the number one thing that most people look at, now retirement people is a different animal, but most people are looking at the school that their kids are going to be in. And the second thing they look at are the roads. And those are standards of life. And so in that, we've made a real commitment to do that, and we'll continue to do that.
Next question comes from Kelly in South Charleston. Governor Justice, every public policy decision has winners and losers. Why do you insist that there is no downside for anyone to a massive change that has gone poorly in other states like Kansas? Who are the winners and who are the losers?
Well, let me just say this. I kept this here and everything, but now just imagine this. This was February the 25th, just a few days ago. Okay, this came to me through different channels, but it really came, you know, it ended up to me from Michael Clauser, you know, with the highway people. But now just think about this just for a second. What this says is Mississippi is about to phase out its state income tax altogether. You know, House Bill 1439 in Mississippi, called the Mississippi Tax Freedom Act of 2021, quietly emerged Monday and was passed by the Ways and Means Committee late in the day. So in other words, it was passed in the House. Now I know the Mississippi governor has been pushing for this for a long time, months and months, but the House in Mississippi has stepped up, and they're running their own bill. It said the bill was authorized by, get this, 3 top House Republicans, the Speaker and the Speaker pro temp and a representative as well. And it says, how are they going to eliminate their income tax? And basically it says just this. It says couples with an income of greater than $95,000, those that have less than that, you know, are going to have their income tax gone relatively quickly. Now, from a standpoint of people with over that, there's still, I guess there's still issues there that people are going to be paying more or still paying. And it says, how would they make up the difference? Now get this. They want to raise, the House bill raises their sales tax to 9.5%. 9.5%. It raises their liquor tax. It raises taxes on their farm equipment. It raises taxes on their cars or trucks or planes, mobile homes, etc., and it raises tax on manufacturing machinery. It says even the Democrats in Mississippi are backing this plan. It's very likely to pass, but the governor's plan is pushing for even a stronger amount of taxes. You know why it says that? It says that in a conjunction to this. Now get this, let me get this right. It says, Mississippi is about to phase out its state income tax altogether so, now get this, so that it will be competitive with Texas, Florida, and Tennessee, who at this time don't have a state income tax. Now what does that say? What does that say? It says that they know, and Texas, Tennessee, and Florida also know that absolutely this really works. And this drives people to their state and drives opportunity. And then it says, who's sponsoring it? And who's sponsoring it is the Republicans. And they are really dog after this. And then it turns right around and says, how are we going to pay for it? And they're going to pay for it much more abruptly and much more aggressively than my plan in every way. My plan says that what we want to have happen, we want to have this phased in and done in a way that is seamless and as painless as it can be. Mississippi is saying, for God's sakes a living, this is so important that our people need to move and our people need to step up and gracious sakes a living, you're exactly right. The burden of this on the poor people and everything would be enormous. But the one thing great that I'm trying to do is I have been working day after day after day with the legislative leadership, and they are great at what they're doing, and they're absolutely trying to help in every way, and we are working hand in glove, and I commend Speaker Hanshaw, I commend President Blair, and all the different inner workings of all the people that are around them. We're working really hard to get there, but we're going to get there in a way that's nowhere close to as aggressive as Mississippi. But even Mississippi knows without any question it's the thing to do.
The next question comes from Francis in Mason. Why not do away with property taxes? This state is taxed to death. Then people will ask, why are you moving out of West Virginia? Can't afford to live here anymore.
Well, I just take issue with just this, and you've got to go back and research this on your own, but the property tax in West Virginia as compared to property taxes in other lands or other places is extremely low, extremely low. And from the standpoint of, and I go back to just what I just said earlier, we could lower the corporate net by 0.5%. We could lower our consumer sales tax maybe by 0.5%. We could do something on our property tax and lower it a tick or whatever. And at the end of the day, you know what's going to happen? Nobody's going to come. Nobody's going to come. This has all the appeal that you could possibly have. This is the absolute mover. This is the mover that drives people here. Now look, I am not one of those, nor am I going to be one of those, that wants to lower a tax and be able to go back and say, look what I did. I lowered a tax. It may have not meant doodly to the state of West Virginia. It may have not helped in any way, but I lowered a tax, so reelect me. That's not me. That's not me. I want to try to do something that's going to help this great state.
Next question comes from Timothy in Wheeling. Working in the natural gas industry, I know our severance tax is already tiered. When price goes up, collections go up. We have seen production increase almost every year since 2007 or so, but severance collections vary because of price. Companies will drill out of state in the near future, and we will miss out on our chance because the feds will ban fracking in the near future. Why raise a tax when creating more demand is a better way to collect more tax?
Well, first of all, I hope and pray that there's not a ban on fracking and we blow our legs off, you know, with China building a coal-fired power plant every week, and all the nations across this globe are doing things, you know, and we're going to be so-called righteous and really don't even know for sure about this climate change deal and all the effects. So I hope and pray that we don't get to that. But the other thing, and it was Dan, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, Dan, the other thing is, and I want you to understand this. What I'm asking the gas people to do, the oil people, the coal people, I'm just asking them to be the great stewards that they have been over and over and over. All I'm asking for is just one thing. Now, you got to remember, my family's in the coal business and been in the coal business forever. And there is no coal company that's going to be adversely affected by anything that would happen here as much as my family would be. The reason I say that is we have the thinnest seams and the highest quality and the highest price. So we're going to get it on the price side and we're going to get it on the thin seam side. Now, but really and truly, all I'm asking for, Dan, is one thing. It's when the profits for my family or the profits for the gas company go way up, and only as they go way up, I'm asking them just to throw just a teeny bit more in the collection plate. Do they not have that responsibility? I mean, really and truly, the natural resources of this state may belong to individuals, but at the same time, they're us. They're us. And as far as their employees and all their stuff, as this flows down and they don't pay taxes, you know, it is absolutely so beneficial. You know, they do have a responsibility. They do have a responsibility, and they want to step up and they want to help. And my discussions with them have been great. But again, I caution you to think I am not just hitting them where they're struggling. No way. When they struggle, I'm trying to make things even lower on the severance tax. But as things go way up, sure, they can throw a few more pennies in the collection plate, and so can my businesses and my family's businesses, and we'll gladly do so.
Next question from Chester in Berkeley Springs. You're doing a great job for the people of West Virginia. Please keep to the grindstone and help the people of this state. Also, my family loves Baby Dog. May God bless you and the people of our state.
Well, I don't know what kind of question it is, but I'll tell you, there's none better than Baby Dog. I mean, she is my buddy and a great therapy dog, because I'm telling you, in this job, you can catch it, and you can catch it a lot of different ways, and most of the time it's really unfair. But then you turn around and look at Baby Dog, and she's looking at you wondering when you're going to stop at McDonald's and get her a chicken nugget, and that's good stuff to me.
All right, the next question from Donna in White Sulphur Springs. Governor, from my understanding, the state budget is expected not to increase. Looking at what may be coming from the legislature, like the addition of an intermediary court, costs from the Hope Scholarship, how is that possible without cutting other programs? If we repeal the state income tax and there is a shortfall, how will the difference be made up?
Well, Don, I've been through all the stuff, you know, and you know, from the standpoint of where we are right now, and this is getting ready to be sent up and everything, where we're going to land is we're going to land at this, you know, this tax cut is going to be much more substantial than any tax increases, and at the end of the day, everyone is going to benefit. From the standpoint of the intermediate court, or from the standpoint of the additions from you know, our Secretary of Economic Development or our Secretary of Tourism or whatever it may be, we're absorbing all that, and that cost is now I'm not an expert on the intermediate court and everything, but from what I can tell you, it will expedite and it'll make things even much better. We need to have that in this state, and we absolutely need to continue to listen to the powers to be in our legislature and all throughout government, as well as all the folks that are out there, that we can just make things better. Now from the standpoint, Donna, of all the particulars about what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, I just want you to dial in and focus to one thing, and that is, I think our natural resources need to contribute. I think our professionals need to contribute a little bit. I think we can raise the consumer sales tax just a teeny bit, as well as tobacco and beer and liquor and soda drinks, the things that are probably hurting us an awful lot. And we can raise that just a little bit, but we've got to find a way that the cuts are even, in this situation, really, Donna, you could almost sit back and say, well, maybe we can all just pay more and everything. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring us all the opportunity and us pay less. And I'm really close to being there.
Next question from Barry in Charleston. Can we cite any example of a state that generated a 20% increase in population growth over a 10-year period due to a change in the tax structure?
I don't have that right at my fingertips and everything. Our people are working all kinds of different charts and everything, and I'm not dodging the question, but I just asked you just this. Let's just be real again. The United States of America since 1950 has doubled in population. Doubled. If we were just the same as everybody else, our population, instead of being at 1.7 million, would be at 3.4 million. If we had done just what everybody else had done in the United States of America since 1950, we'd be at 3.4 million people. We've gone down in population. Now, absolutely, if you want to just step back and think of this as a ball team. I've been a coach forever. You inherit a ball team that's not won a game, is 0-20, and I'm not insinuating we haven't won a game, because we've got a lot of great stuff going on in West Virginia. But really and truly, if the next season you end up 5-15, you've picked up 20%. In fact, you've picked up 25%, and you haven't really hardly done anything, have you? The low-hanging fruit in this state, the population growth in this state, the first 20% will be the easiest 20% that you've ever gotten in your life. And absolutely, beyond that, it'll get a little tougher, but absolutely we'll continue to grow. But this is what we got to do.
Next question from Robert in Beaver. Why do you want to repeal the income tax in West Virginia when it could seriously hinder the ability for students to pay for college and for West Virginia parks to be upkept? I know that question is obviously biased, but I want to know why the legislature and you think that removing income taxes will benefit West Virginians. I would like to see numbers of how much money individuals keep per year by removing the taxes, how parks will make up the lost funding when new budgets are drafted to compensate for lower tax income, and how this will affect public school funding at all levels. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, Robert, I'm going to go real quick here and everything. From the standpoint of you seeing the numbers, you're going to see them real soon. And I hope you'll be pleased with the numbers. From the standpoint of your parks, again, let's just be real. Before I walked in the door, the parks were falling down. Since I've walked in the door, we've spent over $100 million on the upgrades to our parks, and we're booked, slammed flat to the gills, and there's a wait list on people coming to our parks, and we want to pour more and more money into our parks. From the standpoint of public education and everything, or the Promise Scholarship or whatever like that, I'm 1,000% supportive, and there's no point in backing up there. From the standpoint of bringing people to this state, and this is a proven methodology beyond belief, West Virginia is so primed, Robert, for right now. Right now. The whole world's looking at us. The whole world's saying, you're first in the nation, first in the nation, what's going on in West Virginia? The whole world's looking right now. If we make this move today, do you not think that people are going to flood here from all kinds of different places? And when they flood, do you not really think they're not going to bring job opportunities beyond belief to us? They are. Is that not going to drive wages up? Is that not going to put more taxpayers here that would make more and more things possible to us, whether it be promise scholarships or public funding for our schools or making our parks better or whatever? It's absolutely all going to happen. But, that's the net of the whole story.
Next question from Monty in South Charleston. Isn't the income tax progressive and sales tax regressive? Won't the shifting of 43% of our state income base going to be borne more by poor people and less by wealthy folks?
It could be if it's done wrong. It could be if it's done exactly what Mississippi is looking at doing. Now, their argument is going to be just this. And their argument at the end of the day is going to be, which is a valid argument. They're going to say people that are making $20,000 or $25,000, we don't want them making $20,000. We want to drag them out of that. We want to get them out of that rut. We want to get them to a $50,000 income. And if we get them to a $50,000 income, they'll be net so positive it's unbelievable. I want that too. I want that absolutely too. But today, we have a methodology to be able to do this all-encompassing thing and protect the low income until we get the growth and get them out of that situation.
The next question comes from Steve in Charleston. I am a civil defense attorney and I compete with law firms in our border states for cases and clients. I'm concerned about the competitive disadvantage West Virginia firms will have in keeping and attracting new work when West Virginia would be one of the only states in the United States that would tax professional fees. This would be a big problem for West Virginia firms.
Well, I could not disagree more, because today in the state of West Virginia, in all honesty, I'll never forget, I just thought about this, I'll never forget a real estate agent telling me when there was nothing selling, he said, you know what, we got to carry cards around like crazy now because we end up as real estate agents trying to sell real estate to the other real estate agents. Well, in West Virginia, there was a time not long ago, 2016, 2015, before I walked in the door, when really we were just in that kind of situation. Your law firm was scrambling probably to find work. Now, it may have been different, I don't know, absolutely, you can't hold me to that. But what I am trying to do is I am trying to drive to you more and more and more business, more opportunities. And along the way, I'm hopeful that you do not pass on, a fee, a tax that would pass on to the consumer. You may opt to do so. And really, at the end of the day, if the consumers are doing well and everything, and and I know too, that a lot of the people that you represent from the standpoint of doing legal work for, are the higher income people. But really and truly, if at the end of the day, you opt to pass that on, I'm hoping that those people are doing better, that they can afford that as well. But the net of the whole thing is you're not thinking broadly. In my opinion, the net of the whole thing is versus where you are today, will this bring you one pot full more work? And what will the cost really be for you? I don't see how any of the professionals wouldn't be 1,000% behind this unless they're just not thinking broadly enough. And I challenge you to do just that.
Next question from Mac in Huntington. Will the income tax phase out be based on income brackets? How would the phase out look for someone making $45,000 versus $450,000 a year?
Well, right now, the way we've done it is a flat cut all the way across the board of a half, to cut everybody's into half. How we go forward with this, if we're cut everybody's across the board in half right now, and what we do is we raise soda tax a little bit, we raise the net sales income tax by 1.5 or to 7.9 or 7.5, and we Then we do the professionals and the natural resources and just little bits here and there and everything, and we get there, you know, on the tobacco and the beer and all that kind of stuff. And we get there, okay? Then beyond that, how do we get rid of the other half? Well, the other half, the way that I would hope like crazy that we can get rid of the other half is through our growth, where we don't ever have to raise another tax. Now, a lot of you out there, when we were out trying to pass the road bond referendum, you looked right at me and you said, we hear you on this, but really we know as we go forward, if we vote for this, our taxes are going to go up way, way, way more. I said they wouldn't, and they didn't. And so I'd say that will be the challenge, our growth. And as our growth comes, we move to eradicate the income tax. If our growth doesn't come, we just stay where we're at. You know, I'm trying to insulate this to where there's no downside. And so it's the best I can do.
Next question from Barbara in Moundsville. How much will my property taxes be increased? Have you done a study on how much increasing the sales tax will impact lower income residents? Have you done a study on how it will impact businesses on the border of West Virginia? People can drive across the bridge or across the state line and spend their money in another state altogether. How are you going to fill the hole in the budget besides the sales tax? How many state employee jobs will be lost? We have insufficient staff now to deal with unemployment issues and tax issues.
Bless your heart, you're looking at this as a glass half empty. You need to step back and really just say to yourself, do you really truly think that this is not going to drive population growth to West Virginia? Well, I know it is. And if it drives population growth to West Virginia, do you really believe the net effect of people driving across out into another state to buy something and driving back will be greater than the growth and the purchases here? I mean, come on. And from the standpoint of your property values, do you not think 3 people wanting to buy your house instead of 1 is not going to drive the property value up? And as the property value goes up and everything, everybody wins. It's the same way with wages and everything. People coming into the state, on and on and on. And I could just go on about it for a long, long time. But you're not looking at the glass half full. You're looking at the glass half empty. And we have proven, we got it down pat on how to lose. We got that down pat. I mean, just look. The only state in the country that has lost population while the whole country has doubled in population. We got it down pat. We're doing something wrong. We got to change something.
Next question from Vicky in Morgantown. What consideration has been given to significant adjustments to the tax brackets instead of elimination of income tax entirely? I would rather see a slower transition and a replacement that doesn't impact those at the bottom of the income levels as much as increased sales tax does. Also, would a bigger break for families through tax bracket adjustments really be the population we want to try to bring back to West Virginia? However, doing all of these machinations with the tax system isn't going to mean a hill of beans if there are few jobs for young people in West Virginia.
Well, it's a long question. There's a lot of different ramifications from the whole thing, but let me just say, you know, as I guess as quickly as I can is, if we don't bring growth and people wanting to come to West Virginia, we won't have the jobs for the young people. You know, from the standpoint of the ramifications on the poorest, I'm trying to absolutely work it out to where we don't have ramifications to the poorest that are negative. You know, from the standpoint of I don't understand exactly what you mean. Those are the people that we want here. So I don't get that, because I think we ought to encompass wanting everyone here. But at the same time, we've got to be a little careful from just this. We want to make this enticing to those that are doing well in life and have the opportunity to bring their businesses here. You know, so it has to be enticing to everyone. It has to be absolutely, you know, protective to our lowest income, but it has to be enticing to higher income to have them come and bring their opportunities here as well. So, so it's a little complicated, but that's what we're trying to, that's what you got me here for, to tell you the truth.
Next question comes from Elaine in Marlinton. What other taxes will be increased to make up the difference in revenue?
I think all the things that we've already said over and over, and I know when your question came in, you didn't know about all the stuff we've already said, but like I said, there's going to be my proposal is a little bit on tobacco, a little bit on beer, alcohol, wine, a little bit on, the soda tax has not changed since 1970, in 50 years. 50 years it's been a penny. I want to raise it a nickel. Isn't 50 years enough? But from the standpoint of, other things that are out there, the professional services, the natural resources, and on. But that's how we get there. And basically what we do is we lower your taxes about $100 million, a little more than $100 million more than we raise your taxes.
Next question comes from Harry in Martinsburg. Will the tax on motor vehicles be repealed too?
No, I don't have that in my works at this time.
Next question from Greg in Charlestown. How is this plan going to help everyday West Virginians? Will I end up with more money in my pocket?
Yes, you will. It'll help everyday West Virginians two ways. You'll end up with more money in your pocket. Now, if you go out and smoke 20 packs of cigarettes a day, you won't end up with more money in your pocket, but you won't live very long either, And so I would tell you to back off, but from the standpoint of anything else, you're going to end up with more money in your pocket. And the other thing you're going to end up with is you're going to end up with, just like I said before, the guy in Tennessee that says, before this happened, I was making $35,000. Now I'm making $80,000. Wouldn't that be better for you? And then on top of that, if I don't like my job, I can go right around the corner and I can get 9 more just like it. Would that not be comforting to you? And not only that, my house is now worth 3 times what it was worth 20 years ago. All those things are just, those are the effects of what will happen with this.
Next question from Michael in Charlestown. I currently commute from Charlestown to Chantilly, Virginia for work. I am a government contractor, and it seems like so many of us commute daily from the Panhandle into Virginia for work. Is there plans in the future to grab some additional government contractor jobs in the Panhandle to reduce so many of us leaving the state for work?
I surely hope and pray, because what I hope is you're going to hear this vacuum or this sucking noise as the people are evacuating Virginia and just flooding into the Eastern Panhandle and different places because of what we have here and what we offer here in West Virginia, and that's what we want to have happen.
Next question from Jennifer in South Charleston. If you're willing to raise taxes on sugar products like soda and products like cigarettes, why are you not willing to increase taxes on alcohol?
We are. It was good comments, and we take heed to the comments, and we listen, and we've gone back, and we've changed, and we've tweaked, and we've lowered this and raised this and everything to where we've got beer, wine, and alcohol in my bill that's going to be going up.
Next question from Sherry in Kimberly. What can be done to the corporate tax to draw corporations such as Disney, as discussed in the past, to bring business to our state? It was once said that they were bringing an amusement park to West Virginia. Can this still happen? Are discussions in the works with large corporations to bring entertainment as well as manufacturing business to West Virginia?
And Dave, I was going to pass to you, but no, I can't pass to you on this one. This is so dear to my heart. I really, really believe that there is a real chance of landing real entertainment, landing, the next Disney, the next Dollywood, whatever. I mean, you just think of all the advantages that we have here. It is unbelievable if we market ourselves and do it the right way. And absolutely, without any question, You know, and of course, a lot of people will say, well, you know, Justice, you're a dreamer. And I'm going to tell you that I am very, very conservative at heart, but absolutely I do have a creative mind, and I absolutely believe that there's opportunities in this state beyond belief. It is the very reason I became your governor. And when we absolutely can't believe, and when we can't hope for something, and we can't shoot for the stars, I mean, then we are going to be doomed to be in the rut. You know, I am trying to get us out of the rut. You know, and if we don't do this and everything, it's a big, big, big mistake. You know, you see the fact that the national media is all over us all the time, you know, just saying just how phenomenal things are happening, or the things that are happening in West Virginia. Well, do you not think that helps us? That helps us beyond belief. But there's absolutely so many things. We have low corporate tax, low property tax. If we had no state income tax, absolutely located within Roxborough, 2/3 of the population of the country. The first state that the population of that Philadelphia and Baltimore, that they've got to go through to get to a state with no income tax is us then. I mean, there are so many things. The state that handled the coronavirus perfectly. The state that handled the economics knocked it out of the park. The state, us, West Virginia, the greatest state in my book.
Last question today comes from David in Princeton. I'm in favor of eliminating state income taxes. This action, combined with no longer taxing Social Security, is the right move to promote business growth in West Virginia and an influx of retirees, too. My question is, what new taxes will be necessary in order to offset the loss of income from collecting state income taxes?
Well, David, I appreciate your question and love your community, and I just appreciate your support. I would tell you I've been through all the different things that we would raise. The net of the whole thing is just this, and I want to just touch on this just a second, and that is, you know, pick a number. At an income level, the way that I've got this thing set up right here, at an income level of $25,000, you know, you're going to get a deduction in your income tax of $330. You're going to pay an increase in your consumer sales tax, and this is all by tables that are by the gurus, the economists, everybody in the world. You're going to pay on your purchases, you're going to pay an extra $157. You're going to pay an extra $40 on soft drinks you buy and $35 more on property taxes. You're going to get a tax rebate check in my scenario of a couple $100. And what you're going to end up with, David, you're going to end up, if you've got an income of $25,000, you're going to end up with $298 more in your pocket, unless you're a smoker or unless you're drinking all the time. You're going to end up with $298 more in your pocket at that income level right there than you have today. And not only that, you're going to have all the goodness, all the opportunity to make more wages, all the opportunity for your property to go up in value, all the opportunity that you'll have to go right around the block to Disney World or to Dollywood instead of having to drive all the way across this country. David, and can you just imagine, if I could just take 1 second, let's say you were making $70,000. In that scenario, in this exact same scenario, your wages, now you wouldn't get a tax rebate check, but your wages, your actual dollars that you would have in your pocket would be $1,091 more money than you have today. And you'd have all the goodness. And pick one more thing. Let's just say you were at $40,000. At $40,000, you would end up with $338 more dollars in your, if I'm on the right line, than you have today. And at $50,000, you would end up with $558 more dollars than you have today. And what we're trying to do is make it to where those that have less than $10,000 are going to end up with more dollars in their pocket in the future than they have today. That's the whole challenge. That's whole everything. You know, we all know that this should be all about opportunity, all the goodness that will come to our state. But in addition to all that, what I'm trying to make it is about putting real bucks in your pocket today. Now you tell me, if I can put more dollars in your pocket today and I can bring you all the opportunity in the world that I'm talking about, who in the world could not vote for this? Who could not vote for it? You know, I can't think of how anyone could not be 1,000% behind this. Anyway, thank y'all so much. I'll come back. I'm going to just keep coming back and taking your questions and everything until we get everything to where everybody totally understands and that what we're trying to do here, there isn't any fish hooks. There's no bad downside. That is, unless you go out and smoke those 20 packs of cigarettes a day. I can't help you if you're doing that because that's not smart. Thank you a bunch.